Welcome to the Young, Dumb, and in Love podcast, where we talk about all things marriage.
Our goal is to help equip you to have a marriage that is better than you have ever imagined by sharing real-life experiences, getting into the nitty-gritty, and sharing practical ways you can start today. Let's dive in.
You remember that one time when we first got married and I took a picture with an actual camera?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
That was kind of scandalous.
Kind of scandalous? You were naked. That is officially scandalous. But
Took a picture. Hold on, let me finish telling the story.
Okay, sorry.
Took a picture
Spicy.
of myself.
In a mirror.
Laid it on the bed for you to see.
But then
And then you never responded to me. She never said anything to me at all. And I was like,
automatic shut off.
I totally get it. I probably wouldn't want to see that either.
No, and then I don't even know how long after it was.
It was months. Months later.
Okay. And we're at my parents' house and the camera's there with us. I've never seen the picture. Julian's forgotten about the picture.
I forgot about it altogether.
And my little sister, who at the time would have been like an older teenager, because we were, she would have been like older.
17?
I don't know. Let's
17
not talk about how old
probably.
she was. Anyway, she is looking at the pictures on our camera. Neither one of us are thinking anything about it. And then she puts the camera down and leaves the room.
Very awkwardly.
And then she goes straight to my mom and is like, oh my gosh. Well, come to find out, she saw the picture. It's a running joke now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
I think the thing is,
you ruined her.
Back then, yeah, I ruined her. She still isn't married to this day.
I scared her.
But
Anyway.
the thing is, the cameras were a real thing back then. We didn't have our cell phones, so I couldn't just delete it. And I forgot about it.
You wonder why I am very careful around the camera.
Oh my
anyway.
gosh. All right.
Anyway. So today we're going to talk about
boundaries,
but guardrails and setting your marriage up for success. What are you doing? And making sure that, it's like this, you, in theory, you're not going to be able to you can't rewind, right?
Yeah.
So it's if something bad happens, you can't go back and change anything.
It happened.
To happen. You know what
there.
I mean?
Yeah.
But it's in your marriage, if you set up guardrails and boundaries, you're going to help prevent something from happening.
For sure.
Right? You're going to set yourself up for success. And it amazes me how much pushback we get when we talk about this. We still talk about it, but people are like, you're controlling, or, that's not his business or not her business or whatever it is. And if that's the way you want to have your relationship, you know what? More power to you.
Yeah.
That is not why I got married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And how many times have we sat with a couple and it's they never intended for infidelity to take place.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one day today I'm going to cheat on my spouse.
Yeah.
Today I'm going to cross this line.
Yeah.
It was a little bit at a time.
Yeah. One thing, one moment at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really for us, and we've seen it so many times, and it's I think at the time, a lot of people, because we've sat with lots of couples, so many couples, husbands, wives, them together, separately, some that have, it's ended subsequently in divorce, others that have stayed together, because we obviously used to be in ministry full time. So we would meet with people even right when it was happening, or right when it's found out. This dog.
I know, she's so ridiculous.
It's okay. That's my hair. But that was never the intention.
Yeah.
It was a little thing that happened that a lot of times you wouldn't even think about, right?
Sure.
You wouldn't even think twice about maybe that DM in your inbox or that email or whatever, that text message.
For sure.
But yeah, so just
keep
kind
going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. She's so cute though. Yeah. But she's distracting because she's so cute.
You have too much ADHD.
You want me to keep going?
Keep going.
Where are you going?
Just keep going.
Okay. Anyway, but because that was never the intention. It's just those little things. So because of that, and because we know these things, we have had these boundaries and really guardrails since we first got married. And we continually adjust them, inspect them, you know, whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
you know, because seasons change, who you're around changes. But yeah, so I just wanted to like talk about in your marriage, if you're like, gosh, we don't really have any of those, like some of these would be great to implement. And I think this is the thing. People say like, well, that's so controlling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not controlling if you don't allow it to control you.
Sure.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't feel controlled at all in any way whatsoever. I know that I could go do, honestly, I could do whatever I wanted to do, you know, but because I'm married and I made a vow and I want to be faithful to Julian and I want to
honor our
keep our marriage sacred and my family, like these boundaries and guardrails help provide like safety and security and trust and knowing like, you know, like that door can't be opened because we've set those boundaries. Yeah. So just kind of like if we want to talk about real quick, like what are those, like what do those look like for me and you?
Yeah.
And then if you're a couple who's like, gosh, you know, we want to start doing this. Like,
for sure.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, boundaries. So like one of the biggest things that we did from the very beginning is never to be alone with the opposite sex.
Right.
In any situation really, you know? And so I even work a job and own a business where there's a lot of times where I'm doing something for somebody and it's just them, right? And so we set it up in such a way where no matter what, I'm always going to have someone there with me. Even if I'm losing money because I have to pay that person to be there, it's worth it to me to have somebody there because I don't want to put myself in a position that would set me up for a moral failure, or even set it up to not even just for that, but opening the door for something to grow or something to happen or anything like that. And people would say like, that's ridiculous. You're in the professional field. I'm like, yeah, but that happens in the professional world more than we can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And typically it's probably mostly where it happens is in the professional world because we've made jokes, you know, at different jobs and different places I've worked, but like, oh yeah, that's my work wife, you know, like stuff like that. Like that kind of joke becomes reality at times because people don't know how to set up boundaries to allow them not to be put in those kind of positions. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like we've talked about this, and perception can become reality. And like, even though I do trust Julian, if he's alone with a woman and that woman then says something, or, you know, someone sees like, oh, I saw Julian out with, you know, another woman at a restaurant. It's like, that just begins this like, you know, whatever it is. So it's just setting up those guardrails. It doesn't mean, you know, that I don't like talk to that I don't talk to men. For sure. Or that Julian never talks to women, or we don't do business with people that are of the opposite sex. That would be insane. You know what I mean? But it's just having those guardrails, those, you know, bumpers. Like when you go bowling, like I am terrible. I always get a gutter ball. It's
gotta get those bumpers up.
Bumpers, you know,
you're gonna hit at least one pin, at least.
Well, and here's my question and my challenge to you is like, how sacred is your marriage to you? Yeah. How important is it to you to remain faithful, to, you know, protect your marriage? And we've talked about this so many times. Marriage is so undervalued in our culture. Mm-hmm. It's so flippantly like, I'll get married, but you know, like whatever happens. And I know for me, like when I got married, I was like, I'm going to be married to this person forever. For the rest of my life. I know things happen. I have friends, precious dear friends, who that's unfortunately wasn't their reality. You know, they are now divorced or single moms or whatever that looks like. But that wasn't what they intended. That wasn't their heart on the day they gave their vows. For sure. You know what I mean? Things do happen, and that is heartbreaking, you know? Yeah. But so share, and let's talk about like, what are tangible ways that we have those boundaries? So of course, not being one-on-one with someone of the opposite sex in like a setting that would be, you know, like exclusive, like in a home or in a car or out to lunch, you know, so obviously those things. And then what else do we do?
Another one, we just have an open phone policy with our marriage. And so at any time she could pick up my phone and she knows my passcode. She can read my emails. She can look at my text messages, see who's called me. Yeah. Like those are all just, it's like an open door for our marriage, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't that often.
Oh, totally.
Because I know that I could.
The times that you do are when I'm on my phone texting and you look over my shoulder, and I don't ever go, what are you doing? You know, like I don't, because I have nothing to hide. So when you live openly like that, no matter what, you can look over my shoulder and I don't care. I'm just going to text.
You're like, this is actually pretty boring.
Yeah. You don't really care about this. I don't know why you're looking at it.
But yeah. So just that openness, and knowing like what's going on, like, hey, and like, for example, there have been times where maybe we've gotten a text or a message or someone's made us feel off.
For
and we've
sure.
had this even
it's happened
recently, and just maybe that your intuition. We have a tendency, like, do we trust our intuition? And Julian will be like, whoa, like red flag. Here's a red flag.
Yeah,
like
I
this
just wave
person,
it.
Yeah, I'm like, red flag, and we've talked about this. Like when I got a text of like this past podcast episodes, we've talked about like a text from someone. It wasn't intended for me, but it was a literal picture of their privates. And, I went straight to Julian. It wasn't even for me. It wasn't meant for me, but I was like, listen, if I have to see it, so do you. But
yeah,
like when Julian's like, hey, this person has made me a little uncomfortable. Will you keep an eye on it? Or like, hey, you should know this happened, whatever. But it's just that open communication. It's not controlling. Again, you could go do whatever you want to do. And so could I.
Yep.
But because we want to honor our marriage.
Yeah.
I want to honor my marriage. It's
Absolutely.
sacred to me. It's important to me. And so those guardrails, not being alone, having that open,
it's for your safety.
phone.
It's for your safety.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it like this. You have children, you have a pool in your backyard. You're going to put an extra lock on the back door.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? To keep them safe, to provide safety, to provide something that doesn't allow them to go to a place they shouldn't be going because you want to protect them.
Yep.
It's just the same thing with your marriage. You're just putting an extra lock on your door to your heart, to your mind, to your thoughts. You're like, you got to put that lock on there so that you can go, all right, I can't reach this.
Yeah.
And because it's not tangible, I'm not even going to mess with it. I can't even open the door because I don't need to. It's there's no reason for me to even go down that path, and it's for protection.
Yeah.
And 100%.
Well, and when we've sat with couples, so many times, it's been a little, small, seemingly innocent communication.
Yeah.
The very
for sure.
first contact, whatever that looks like. And then those people have told us, I wish I wouldn't even have had that account, or I wish I wouldn't even have responded to that DM or whatever. And that's why it's like, you have to be so careful.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in being careful, and no shame in
sure.
being like, I don't really think I should have this account anymore, or
100%.
I don't really know if I should be going to that gym anymore,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, it's better to do that up front than
100%.
have to delete everything because it already
100%.
happened. And we know, like, for
So
instance,
many people.
like your dad, like he had to literally delete everything from his life because of what they walked through together. And but it was too late. Like,
like
by
it had
then it was
already
like, okay,
happened.
it already happened. So now it's like, oh man, like now I got to go super extreme. Well, just start right away.
And it may
set
seem
up.
extreme. Here's the thing, but I don't really care what other people say
I know.
about what we choose to do in
sure.
our marriage, but it also has given us a marriage that for the last 17 years, we have been faithful.
Yeah.
Our marriage bed is
Sacred.
faithful. It's sacred. We have only been with each other.
Yep.
Now that doesn't mean there hasn't been times where, maybe like there's been someone who's maybe tried
For
to,
sure.
like not that we've necessarily had that temptation, but someone's been like, given us that sort of attention.
Mm-hmm.
I just go like, hey, this person made me uncomfortable. Can you
communication
run,
piece.
Run interference when you see this woman, especially, I mean, we were in full-time ministry. So like, you can't just like not go to church if you work at the church and this woman maybe is approaching you, or this man or whatever.
I just tell you.
Just be like, hey, can you make sure that when you see this person approach me,
You just come to me.
You come to me because they are making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's better to be safe than sorry. And I would rather someone be like, gosh, they're so extreme, than for us to have something happen.
For sure.
And we did sit down, with my parents, with my mom and my dad, and they talked about their experience. And now my dad doesn't have any of that stuff. He's like, I just don't want to have Facebook. He wasn't really on Instagram. He's like, I don't want to have my own email. So my mom and him share an email. And I'm sure some people are like, that's crazy. But you know what? Their marriage
is better than ever now.
They want to continually be able to save their marriage and what they have, and it's important to them. And so if your friends think you're crazy, then so be it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if, it talks about like in scripture, like if this causes you to sin, then cut it off. And people are like, I'm not going to cut off my hand. That's not the point. The point is If it is causing you to do something that you're not supposed to be doing, you need to stop that.
Take it out of your life.
You know what I mean? Take that out of your life.
Yeah.
You know, so if a smartphone is causing you to look at things you shouldn't be looking at,
go get yourself a flip phone.
Go get a flip phone.
All you can do is call and text.
You know, the question you have to ask yourself is how important
For sure.
is my husband to me? How important is my wife to me? How important are my kids to me? And you could speak to this, you know, because obviously I think you've sat with a lot of men. Do they think about all of the repercussions?
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. When it's happening, they typically go from 0 to 100 because it just happens. And it's almost like they go into comatose, right? And so but they don't realize that it didn't just happen. There were lots of small
Warning
encounters that they ignored, that they didn't pay attention to, that they weren't, you know, paying attention to, and it grew, and all of a sudden, boom, here we are, and we're laying in bed with somebody else. And that happens because we ignore the signs. We ignore
the red flag.
Yeah, the red flag. Like, and sometimes they ignore it because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel special. It makes them feel like adrenaline. And like, there's a lot of things that are involved when it comes to that stuff. But that's why it's just better. Like, okay, I would way rather have the feeling good, the adrenaline, all those feelings with my wife. That way I don't have to seek it out anywhere else. And and that's the other side of the setting boundaries. We got to set boundaries in our marriage that we protect our marriage. Like in a way,
100%.
in a way of, okay, we're going to make sure that we have sex once a week. We're going to make sure that we have conversations about our life and how we're doing. And we go on dates and we do this. Like, those are different types of boundaries. Those are positive boundaries that you can do, that are action steps that keep you in line with your marriage, that keep you going forward with your wife or your husband.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think too, it's like sometimes when we talk about boundaries, it feels like a whole lot of no's. We look at boundaries as like a whole lot of no's.
Yeah.
I can't do this and I can't do that and no. And we've talked about this so many times. And this was like such a great revelation for me, is it's not a no, it's a yes. You know what I mean? Like, when you have these boundaries, I don't know, I'm having a hard time putting this into words, but like, for me, it's always like, we always look at, oh, well, it's a bunch of no's, but no, it's really a bunch of yeses. When I've set these boundaries, I have a marriage that I am proud of. I have a family who is healthy and that is thriving. Like, these are yeses. They're not no's. My husband has the password to my phone. Cool. So do my kids. I could probably, so do you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not no's, it's yeses that allow me to live in freedom.
Exactly.
I don't have to have...
You're not hiding.
No,
you're not,
I don't have to be...
You're not putting things behind your back. Yeah.
Yes, because I think we oftentimes like, and I've said this especially like when I was teaching young people a lot, you know, because you teach them about, you know, different things. And it's like, I think a lot of times we look at God like he's a God of no. Like, he says no to this and a no to that. And that's the context I've really used it before. But no, he's really a God of yes. There's so many good things you can do.
That's
like
right.
Having a fruitful marriage and like you said, having sex with your spouse and intimacy. And obviously there's so many issues that come up with that. And not that, you know, but just those, how important it is, the boundaries, because I looked up today, like up to 25% of marriages will have some sort of infidelity take place, you know, and the repercussions. And it's like, set the boundaries now.
Yeah.
If you have not, if you don't have any guardrail, I like to call them like, they're kind of like guardrails, boundaries, yes, but just those things that are like, hey, these are like the safety nets. Like, these are the things that kind of just keep things good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how do we do that? How do we come up with these boundaries? How do you sit down with your spouse and go, okay, let's come up with some boundaries. We've never done this before, but how do we do it now? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just like, hey, like, you know, I trust you. I love you. You know, do you feel like we should be putting some of these in place, you know? And I have to be honest, it's probably a harder conversation when you've already been married. Yeah. For us, it was natural. It was part of like, we did premarital, like, you know, like counseling, and it was kind of the culture of how we like where we got married. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that. It's something I'm grateful for because the boundaries were just like automatic. Yeah. And they've just become part of our marriage. So I think it's a conversation, because I think a lot of times people are like, well, you don't trust me. And I'm like, I see, like, that's a fair, I could see that being the observation. Well, you don't trust me, so that's why I'm going to do it. And I think it's like, no, I just know, you know, that I wear my seatbelt in case I've been in an accident.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to be in an accident. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? I know that's kind of maybe
No, it's true.
example.
No, it's a great example because
But once I'm in an accident, if I put my seatbelt on, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, this seatbelt I put on every day when I get in the car automatically, right? It's just like second nature. I don't always really have to use it.
Yep.
Thankfully, obviously. But if I were in an accident, it would be there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same with boundaries is I don't think you're going to do this. I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't plan on doing this.
But the reality is,
I know that if the boundaries are there, then even if it comes up, I'm going to be way less likely
for sure
to do it.
For sure.
So what about you? What do you mean?
Yeah,
It's a hard one. Because some spouses are going to listen to this and then go like, ha, yeah.
Yeah, I always want to take the approach of, hey, I want to start working on this for me.
Right.
Would you like to join in with me?
Yeah.
And I think this would be good for our marriage.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many people struggle and fail, and I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that couple.
Yeah.
And so here's some things I struggle with. And then say it and then go, and here's what I'm going to do to put boundaries in place so that I don't go down that path anymore.
Yeah.
And what that does to the brain of the other person, it makes them go, wow, they're being vulnerable. Like, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah.
And then you just keep it going.
Yeah.
And then you don't need to be like, aren't you going to say anything? Aren't you going to have any boundaries? Like, that's the wrong approach. The right approach is going to be, here's the things that is there anything that you feel like you would want to do?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to get that response a lot of the times. And so you go, okay, well, here's a couple more that I thought would be good for me.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do this one together. I think this would be a good one for us to get. Like, when you take that approach of just like, I'm going to do this, come along with me, please. If you don't, I'm still going to invite you. And you continue to invite them often. And you're like, hey, just so you know, like, I've been doing this and this is the difference it's made. Like your weekly checkup, right? I've been doing this and this is how it's fixed me or helped me or whatever. And you have those conversations more and more. Your spouse is more likely going to jump on with you when you're being the example. So pointing the finger and saying you need to change, you need to have boundaries, blah, 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 blah. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
What's going to work is being the example and leading the way.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like if you are the one who's like, oh, man, I want to start doing this, then just saying like, hey, you know what? Maybe they don't have the password to your phone.
For sure.
Or maybe they don't like.
There you go. Yeah.
Whatever. Just be like, hey, you know what? I just want to make sure you know that like every part of what's on my phone is open to you. So like, here's a password to my phone. If you ever feel like you need to look at it, you know, there you go.
Feel free.
You know, and there are red flags. Like, you know, have you ever been with someone and they're constantly, my phone was down, so it's kind of funny, like putting their phone, you know, down or whatever. It's like, it just shouldn't matter. And I think that's the thing. And, you know, I have to go.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
No, like I literally have to go. It's 2:42.
Okay.
So, wrap it up by yourself.
All right.
Just say, she had to go pick up our kids.
Well, my wife had to go pick up our kids because we did a great job of planning our time today. But if you are truly struggling in this area and you need help with boundaries, we would encourage you just to sit down with your spouse. Take some time to truly sit down and discover what are the boundaries, what are the things that we can put in place that will help us just keep our marriage strong and healthy with everything that we do. And I'm telling you, when you set those up and you begin to just work within those boundaries, your marriage will grow stronger and you will grow closer together. And so do everything that you can. Set those boundaries up. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable with each other. When you're vulnerable with your spouse and you allow them into your life and you allow them to speak into your life and you allow them to listen to you as you talk about how you feel or what you struggle with, those are moments that is going to allow you to grow more and more and more every single day in your marriage. So create boundaries, begin to walk with each other, moving forward in everything that you do. Well, we hope that you guys had a great time on this quick episode of Young, Dumb, and in Love, and we'll catch you next time.